بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صدق الله العظيم. In Islam, we have a unique calendar which is based off of the lunar calendar. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that in the Islamic calendar there will be 12 months. إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. There will be 12 months. What the Arabs would do is that in their calendar they also had this concept of a lunar calendar which was also based on 12 months. However, what they would do is that they would swap months around based on their convenience. This was known as the practice of nasi'. So for example, if they were about to go into war and one of the sacred months came up, they would just announce that this year we're skipping the sacred month. Or for example, if they wanted to avoid the war, they would say this year we're bringing the sacred month a little earlier. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He tells us that Islam acknowledges 12 months. And similarly, Islam also acknowledges that out of these 4 months, out of these 12 months, 4 are minha arba'atul hurum. 4 of them are sacred. Now from these 4 sacred months, the first month of the Islamic calendar is the month of Muharram. This month is a very interesting month because the Prophet ﷺ has stated certain virtues regarding this month. Now, but before I speak about the month of Muharram, let's step back for a moment and we look at the Islamic calendar. And through the year we find Rasulullah ﷺ giving us the virtue of particular months, particular days. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that every week there is a special day, the day of Jum'ah. Make something special out of it. Go above and beyond. Push yourself a little further. During the week you might be busy and it's normal for people to be distracted and not be able to give their 100%. But when it comes to Jum'ah, you need to push yourself. So for those of us who work, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, some of us may even work 7 days a week, you need to try to carve out some time for Jum'ah where it's you and the masjid. For those of us who send our children to public school, we need to make sure that there is a religious service for our children. Whether it happens at the masjid at a separate time, or we find a way to communicate with our masajid, with our school, and the masajid, a way to find a common term, a common ground where our children can leave public school for an hour or 2 hours and come to the masjid. Because not having this Jum'ah gathering, not being able to spiritually nurture yourself on a weekly basis will leave you devastated. It will harm you greatly. Then Rasulullah ﷺ told the companions that there are 3 days every month, the white days, which come in the middle of the Islamic month. These are ideal days for a person to fast. So there are multiple days that you'll find through the month and through the week that the Prophet ﷺ gave attention to. And for us as Muslims, these are opportunities to latch onto. These are opportunities for us to push ourselves a little further. I've seen in some communities that when it comes Thursday night after Maghrib Salah, the community members go into i'tikaf. In America, I've seen this. Where people will go into i'tikaf because they know tomorrow is Jum'ah, so I want to spend this night in a special way. Rather than doing the father and son i'tikaf on Saturday nights like many of us do, they do it on Thursday night, and on Friday morning, the fathers take their kids directly to school, drop them off. And I know it's inconvenient, it's difficult, but they understand the value of this night. Yesterday, earlier, I was reading regarding a particular scholar on the flight here. I was reading regarding a particular scholar from Egypt, Alam Ashuni rahmatullahi alayhi, Nuruddin Ashuni. I was reading regarding him that he would read salawat on the Prophet ﷺ every Thursday night. And not only would he do it, but it became a practice in Egypt. He wrote some salawat, he compiled some salawat to be sent on the Prophet ﷺ from the different ahadith. And it became a practice in Egypt. And not only in Egypt, there was a time where one of the commentators on this book that I was reading, he wrote that this compilation of salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, that they would read, this practice of saying salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ abundantly, in particular Friday night, the night between Thursday and Friday, it became so widespread that there was a time where Muslims all the way from Yemen until Spain were practicing it because they understood the value of this night. This was a special night for them to engage further and push themselves a little more. Now, then come in the year certain months that are very special, like the whole month is special. We have an example of this like the month of Ramadan. The whole month is special, not just one day. There are certain nights within Ramadan that are super special, but the whole Ramadan is special. And as the Islamic year wraps up, on the 12th month of the Islamic year, which is the December equivalent, comes the season of Hajj, the Hijjah. This comes right at the end of the Islamic calendar. And it's as if we're being reminded that every time we do something, we should always end it in the best form, with the best of actions. As Rasulullah ﷺ says, فَإِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ, that actions are based on their endings. And we end our year, every year, with the month of the Hijjah, where Hujjaj from across the world travel to Makkah Mukarramah to perform their Hajj. And those of us that are here and don't make it out there, we spend the first 10 days of the Hijjah making dua to Allah, doing dhikr, because those days are special with dhikr. We fast in those days. We make our version of our sacrifice while the other Hujjaj across the world are making their sacrifice. And our sacrifice is that we don't cut our nails during that time. We don't cut our hair during that time. We prepare to sacrifice an animal on the day of Eid in the month of the Hijjah. But after the Hijjah comes to an end, some of us may think that now I'm on break until Ramadan. Don't bother me anymore. Don't call me to the masjid anymore. Like, I'm done. I pushed myself hard enough for the last 3-4 months. Now it's time for me to go back to, signing up to my gym and focusing on my soccer league. I'm not coming back to the masjid. But then when the new Islamic year starts, the month of Muharram comes. And the month of Muharram, Rasulullah ﷺ referred to it as Shahrullah al-Muharram, the month that belongs to Allah Azza wa Jalla. In one narration, Rasulullah ﷺ said, there are no days that a person can fast in that are as virtuous after the month of Ramadan than the days of Muharram. The month of Ramadan, without any doubt, has the greatest virtue when it comes to fasting. But after the month of Ramadan is gone, if there is a month that you're looking to fast in, if there is a month for you to relive some of those days of Ramadan that you want to push yourself again in, this is that month. Rasulullah ﷺ emphatically, with consistency, would fast on the 10th of Muharram. Now, whether the Prophet ﷺ himself fasted the 9th of Muharram or the 11th of Muharram, that's not established. The Prophet ﷺ did show desire, though. He said that if I live another year, I will add a day to the 10th of Muharram. But he ﷺ would fast every year on the 10th of Muharram. According to some muhaddithun and historians, they say that before the month of Ramadan became obligatory for Muslims to fast in, and this happened after Hijrah. After migration, the month of Ramadan became fard to fast in. Prior to the month of Ramadan becoming fard, the muhaddithun, they say, the Muslims were obligated to fast on the 10th of Muharram. This was a very special day to Rasulullah ﷺ for many reasons. The greatest reason, as the Prophet ﷺ himself says, is that this was the day in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Musa alayhi salam and his people from Fir'aun and oppression. This thing that Rasulullah ﷺ said is quite interesting. Because the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that the special thing about the 10th of Muharram is that this was the day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled Musa alayhi salam and Banu Israel to embark on their journey of hijrah. Embark on their journey of hijrah, on their migration. They left Egypt and now they were migrating. They were migrating to a new land, to a new future. They were leaving a life of oppression and they were walking towards liberation. They were walking away from shackles being around their hands and they couldn't worship Allah, to now having that opportunity to go and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this same month of Muharram was the month that the companions started their hijrah in to Medina Munawwarah. The Muslims lived in Makkah Mukarramah for 13 years. Life in Makkah Mukarramah was very difficult. A group of people from Medina Munawwarah come for Hajj and they meet the Prophet ﷺ, 70 odd of them. And they said to the Prophet, that how long will you continue to live in persecution in Mecca when you can move to Medina and live with us? We will support you. We will give you a home ground. We will give you a platform. We will protect you. Nothing will happen to you. Come and join us. They came to the Prophet ﷺ in the Hijjah, which is the last month of the Islamic calendar, as I stated. Rasulullah ﷺ made dua to Allah, asking Allah to give permission so the Muslims can migrate. That permission was granted to Rasulullah ﷺ for migration, either in the end part of the Hijjah or the early part of Muharram. The migration had actually started in Muharram. Many companions of the Prophet ﷺ started their hijrah in Muharram, and they were heading towards Medina Munawwara. And this is why when Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu selected a month to begin the Islamic calendar with, he chose Muharram, not Rabi'ul Awwal when the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina Munawwara. Because hijrah had started long before that. The permission was granted long before that. Rasulullah was one of the last people to migrate from Makkah Mukarramah, ensuring that everyone else had left and everything was taken care of behind them. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh, during his khilafah, was approached by a group of companions, and they said to him that when we are in talks with the Ajim, like the Arabs, the non-Arabs, the Romans and the Persians, we send letters back and forth, and we have to date the letters in order to keep track of communication. And we have to use their system of dating because we don't have one of our own. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh consulted the companions, as he always would. Whenever he took a big decision, he would sit with them, and he would seek their opinions. And he asked them, what do you think about this? And they said, Khayr, this is a good thing. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh said, if we are to establish the Islamic calendar, which year will be considered the first year? And some companions, they proposed that the first year should be the year the Prophet ﷺ was born in. So the year after the Prophet's birth will be considered the second year Islamic calendar. And like this, we will build the Islamic calendar. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh didn't like that idea because there was a stench of Christianity in there, where other faiths had adopted a calendar that was based off of the birth of their Prophet. And after going through multiple opinions, finally one companion, in some narrations stated that it was Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anh, wallahu a'lam bis-sawab, who proposed that we should start the Islamic calendar with Hijrah, the migration. And Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh gave this some thought, and he felt really good about it. You know why he felt good about it? Because that Hijrah, the move from Makkah Mukarramah to Medina Munawwara, was a very powerful moment in Islamic history. That was a moment where now Muslims had liberty to practice. It was a reminder for Muslims of what Islam was prior to migration and what it was after. Anytime you say that 1400 years ago, according to the Islamic calendar, so-and-so incident occurred. Sorry. Is it down there?
What is that? It's okay.
It's working.
I know it's working. There was a clip. Oh, there it is. So we were talking about the calendar. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh chose the Hijrah as that first year, and the reason was because whenever Muslims think about the calendar that 1400 years ago this occurred, they go back to that moment of Hijrah. Every time we cite the Islamic calendar, we go back to that moment of Hijrah, that this is when the calendar starts, reminding us of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the struggles and sacrifices before that day, and the conveniences that were offered to the Muslims and the Prophet ﷺ after the migration was complete. In Makkah Mukarramah, before the migration, the Prophet ﷺ never ever led a Jum'ah khutbah. There was no Jum'ah salah, there was no Jum'ah khutbah for 13 years in Makkah Mukarramah. The first Jum'ah the Prophet ﷺ ever led in his entire life was on the way to Medina Munawwara. When he came to Medina Munawwara, outside Medina Munawwara there's an area called Quba. He came to Quba, he settled there for a few days, they built the first masjid there, and after building the first masjid, when the Prophet ﷺ was on his way to Medina, which is very close by the way, this is maybe a half an hour, 1 hour walk, when he's walking towards Medina Munawwara, as he exited Quba, a group of people who were the neighbors of the people of Quba, they said, "O Prophet, you've spent so many days with our neighbors, why don't you honor our community too?" The Prophet ﷺ said to them that I won't be able to spend multiple days with you. However, what I can do is I can do the first Jum'ah here. And the Prophet ﷺ delivered his first Jum'ah there. After the Muslims arrived in Medina Munawwara, things change. The masjid is built now. The adhan comes. After migration now, the zakat becomes fard. Fasting becomes fard. Much later on, Hajj becomes fard. But Islam now takes on a complete form and a shape that it didn't exist in before the migration. And as we enter, and as we are right now in the month of Muharram, and that 10th of Muharram approaches, we bring these stories together of the migration of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam and the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the companions. And what we see from these people is that they could have lived a life without Islam, or they chose to live a life with Islam, believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And each of these two, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and also Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, when they went on their migration, their sacrifices were great. They were up against the world. They had a great responsibility. Musa alayhi salam is being followed by Fir'aun, and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is being followed by the people of Mecca. Musa alayhi salam gets drawn up against the ocean. The sea is in front of him. And behind him is an army of Fir'aun. What does he do? What does he do? He says, Inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen. My Lord is with me, he'll guide me. And on the other hand, we have the Prophet ﷺ who's lying in a cave with Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, and his enemy is standing outside. What does he do? What he does is he says, La tahzan inna Allah ma'ana. Don't grieve because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us. When I think of the month of Muharram, when I come in the month of Muharram every year, I think of a month of hijrah. This is a month of migration. This is a month of you asking yourself, where are you in life right now and where do you want to be? Is this the year that you want to push yourself to the next level? Or are you going to be complacent in life? It's so easy to be complacent. It's so easy for you to say, I'm happy here, I'm comfortable here. Just before Jummah, I was speaking to Imam Herbert, and while we were talking, I said to him that I don't know if any human being in the history of mankind has ever lived a comfortable life like we do in America. I don't know. I don't know if anyone has ever lived such a comfortable life. Cars, homes, air conditions, cell phones. Maybe the people in the future might have more comfort, but I don't know anyone in the history of mankind that's ever had this much comfort, and we say Alhamdulillah for that. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But at the same time, it's so easy to get lost in this comfort. It's so easy for me to get lost in front of my TV, in front of my phone, in front of my Xbox, in front of my PlayStation. It's easy for me to get lost there. It's easy for me to get lost while watching some, Turkish or Pakistani Indian soap opera or some drama. I can waste my life doing that. Or I can do hijrah. I can sacrifice. I can move on. And hijrah isn't always a physical migration. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, المجاهد من جاهد نفسه في طاعة الله والمهاجر من هاجر الخطايا والذنوب. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Mujahidu man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah. The true warrior, or the true mujahid, the one who is willing to take on the real struggle, is the one who is willing to struggle against himself. It's easy to throw a punch at someone in front of you, but it's very difficult to call yourself out for being the one that's wrong. You can look at other people and say it's their problem. You can exit a marriage and say it was their problem, but it takes true courage to say it wasn't them, it was actually me. Maybe a little bit of them, but a lot more of me. Al-Mujahidu man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah. For you to look at yourself and say, I have to stop blaming my dad for all of my problems. I have to stop blaming my children for all of my problems. Maybe they are the way they are because I am the way I am. Al-Mujahidu man jahada nafsahu fi ta'atillah. Wal-Muhajiru man hajara al-khataya wal-dhunub. The Prophet ﷺ says, a true migrant, someone who really migrates, is one who migrates from a lifestyle of sin to a newer lifestyle, a lifestyle of obedience. And this is what hijrah actually represented. It represented the rebirth of the believer, where now I'm willing to migrate for a greater cause. I'm willing to become a better version of myself. But in order for that to occur, you have to be willing to have an honest conversation. Let me say one thing to you. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us health. Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us wealth. Alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us freedom to practice our religion. Alhamdulillah. Go look at your Uyghur Muslim brothers in China. They don't have that freedom anymore. Go look across the world. People lost their wealth. Our Muslim brothers from Syria were wealthy people. You know, these people would boast about how beautiful Syria was because it was so beautiful, but it's gone. And I ask myself that all these luxuries that I have, it's so easy for me to be lazy, for me to be complacent. I can either choose that and waste my life, or I can choose to make something out of the opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. I can push myself further. We as a community can push ourselves further. If you want to learn the Quran, all you have to do is show up to the masjid. There are Quran classes here. You want to pray salah 5 times a day, you just have to turn your car on and drive. We all have cars, walhamdulillahi ala dhalik. We can do that. Today we have that energy. We pass up on this moment. And ask the seniors who are sitting here, they will tell you that if they could become young again, they would do amazing things. But those that are young don't understand the value of their time. They're not willing to migrate. They're not willing to do that hijrah. They're not willing to change and bring that change. The month of Muharram reminds us of that. It reminds us of migrating towards the right cause, fixing yourself. And for those of you that are wondering that, how do I go around even making this change? How do I even do that? Well, 2 things I'll tell you. First thing, you need to understand the value of your time. It's so valuable. Today you're 22, tomorrow you'll be 32. Time will just fly by. Go and ask someone older than you. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. All of us that are, at a more advanced stage in our life, when we look at those who are beneath us, and many who are ahead of me, when they look at my age, they say, hey, when I was that person's age, I remember it like yesterday, but where did those years just pass by? They all just pass by. And before you know it, you're being carried to your grave at a young age or an older age. Utilize your life while you have it. Make something out of it. Don't waste it. Push yourself. And the second thing is that find the people around you who will help you to become a better version of yourself. Everyone needs to surround themselves by people who are better than them. People who have something to offer to you. If you have bad influences in your life, get rid of them. Unfortunately, there are many of us who actually have no influence. Our influence is the TV. Our influence is the news. Our influence is our video game or our video gaming community online. You know, those influences are not going to help you at all. And like I always say, when you stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jalla on the Day of Judgment, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you, what did you bring for me? What do you have to offer him? And you say, Ya Allah, I got a nice car, 2 garages. Nice house, 2 garages. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to say, what? You're talking about 2 garages? I sent you to the dunya to earn Jannah, and you're bragging about a BMW and some silly car? These things don't mean anything to me. I'm the creator of all the heavens and all the earth and everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for a greater purpose. The month of Muharram is your month of hijrah. Find value in your time. I want you to sit with yourself and have a conversation. Where do I waste my time? Where can I utilize my time more effectively? Can I spend more time with my kids? Is my relationship with my kids purely instructional, or is it actually recreational too? Many of us parents, and I'm a father of 4, I understand this. A lot of my time spent with my kids, it's instructional. That do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But do I spend recreational time with my kids? Where I'm not talking about do this, do that, I'm just playing a board game with them. Or I'm talking with them. I'm asking them about how they feel about life, what they're going through. Just striking conversation with them. If you're not going to spend that quality time with your own family, you are the one that loses out. So take account of your time. You must do this. And after you take account of your time, now find the right people to help you improve. If you can find these 2 pieces, if you can fix these 2 pieces, get ready to enjoy your hijrah. Because your life's going to change. Your life will truly change. But if you fall back in this new year, as we are in right now, to a life of just wasting it again, just wasting time, non-stop, and the crazy thing is that we are paying to flush our own life away. Like we're paying Netflix, we're paying Hulu, we're paying Amazon, we're paying these people money so that our life is wasted. I mean, the irony in that is just hurtful. It just hurts so much to think about that. It hurts really deep and it stings. But it's true. And if we can find the right people around us who will support us, who will push us, who will encourage us to read a book, who will encourage us to go and study, who will encourage us to read the Quran, who will push us to become a better version of ourselves. If we can fix these 2 things, inshallah, inshallah, we will find our hijrah. I close with the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that I already quoted once, but I want to quote it again, so it sticks with us for the next 7 days, for the next week. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Al-muhajiru من هجر الخطايا والذنوب. That a true immigrant is one, a true migrant is one who migrates from a life of sin. Some ulama say khataya is saghira, dhunub is kabira, all types of sin, to a life of obedience and connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the anwarat of Muharram. May Allah Azza wa Jalla inspire us to fast on the 10th of Muharram and the day before it as well, or the day after it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to utilize this month of Muharram for great ibadah, for dhikr and tilawah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who benefit from the offerings of this special month. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad. الحمد لله رب العالمين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كلما ذكره الذاكرون وكلما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما يا رب العالمين اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تبارك ربنا وتعاليت فلك الحمد على ما قضيت ولك الشكر على ما أنعمت به وأوليت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلى الله على النبي الأمي سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين أقم الصلاة